I want to take a little time and talk about the numbers that are lost in the first Exodus, because that's going to give us an indication of those that are lost in the second Exodus. We have a number of groups that are lost, and we'll just kind of walk through these. And I'm going to show that it's actually more dangerous inside the camp from disobeying or grumbling or creating problems with the Creator than it is outside the camp. So let's start this. At Numbers 25 and 9, we have 24,000 who worship Baal Peor, who have been sleeping with Midianite women. They're gone. Number 16, 49, 14,700. That number is not in the Samaritan, but it is in the Greek Septuagint, challenging authority. Plus 250 men of renown and their entire families are lost during that situation. So challenging authority, you're going to have 14,700. For worshiping Baal, 24,000. Exodus 32:28, 3,000 at the golden calf. Leviticus 10, we've got the unauthorized fire. But those are the two sons of Aaron. Sabbath breaking, picking up sticks, Numbers 15:32. Although I can imagine that may be a lot higher during the second Exodus, and may have been higher then. We just don't have all those numbers. Numbers 21, 4 through 8. Many, great, exceeding number. People with snakes, and that was for grumbling against the leaders and the Creator. Numbers 14:37. 10 spies died of the plague. Now, that's what happens inside the camp. And I'm going to show where this is going to have a bearing on those of us that are upcoming here shortly. But again, let's look at those in the military. And let's compare that. So, Joshua 7:4. 36 died due to Achan's sin after Jericho. That's the only military loss that we know of an actual loss. So, man, we're losing truckloads of them in the camp. We lose 36 for warfare that we know of. I mean, that's not even something you could have comparison with. Now, let's look at a situation, because we can define this. Let's look at those who are lost, and then we're going to go through the current. When we look at the differences between the first and the second census, Reuben lost 2,770 people. Simeon lost 37,100. Gad lost 5,150. Ephraim lost 8,000. Naphtali was 8,000. These are all fighting men, so the number is going to be higher. That's 61,020 people at a minimum that are lost during that. Now you could say, well, yeah, but everyone there was lost. This is us. This is how many of us are going to be lost. And this is a minimum. This is assuming that nobody who comes from the first resurrection fills up anyone in these tribes. Because if there are, then these numbers are going to be higher. If there's anyone, that's not to say that Manasseh or Benjamin or Asher, which are the three tribes that grow the most during the Exodus, it's not to say that they don't lose somebody as well. And if they do, these numbers can only get higher. And remember, these are fighting men. What happens if these people are those who have the sight and came to faith with the sight? Because if they are, then what really happens is not only are they lost, but because they're the ones who came with sight on the Exodus, then their family is lost. So it's a bigger penalty than just what you would think. So now let's look at what we have for the current. That was what was back then. Let's see what we're told now. Let's compare it to Isaiah 42:17. If If you worship other gods, you will be turned back in utter shame. Let's look at Revelation 2, the church of Ephesus. Yet I hold this, verse 4 and 5, yet I hold this against you. You have forsaken the love you had at first. Consider how far you have fallen. Repent and do the things you did at first. If you do not repent, I will come to you and remove your lampstand from its place. So he's going to take you out. Let's look at Pergamum. Revelation 2, 14 and 15. Nevertheless, I have a few things against you. There are some among you who hold to the teachings of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin so that they ate food sacrificed to idols and committed sexual immorality. Likewise, you also have those who hold to the teaching of the Nicolaitans. Repent, therefore, otherwise I will soon come to you, and I will fight against them, not against you, against those who are doing that teaching with the sword of my mouth. So, again, people who are trying to pull somebody into Baal worship or golden calf worship, especially anyone who's teaching that, they've got a potential issue for Pergamum. Thyatira, Revelation 2, 20 and 22. Nevertheless, I have this against you. You tolerate that woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophet. By her teaching she misleads my servants into sexual immorality and eating of food sacrificed to idols. I have given her time to repent of her immorality, but she is unwilling. So I will cast her on a bed of suffering, and I will make those who commit adultery with her suffer intensely, unless they repent of their ways. I hope you can see Thyatira when we were talking about the first group in the first Exodus that I mentioned. Not to say they were the first group, but the first group that I mentioned, Numbers 25 and 9. The 24,000 who worship Baal Peor. Why were they doing that? Because they're sleeping with Midianite women. So that's the issue, and so it looks like it's going to basically hit them. Now, who did I not talk about? I didn't talk about Smyrna because there's no negative associated with Smyrna. There's a tremendous negative with them because they're having to go through the Great Tribulation. They died during the Great Tribulation. They have to go through the entire trumpets, or judgments. They die sometime during the bowl judgments. Sardis, why didn't I mention them? Because they don't come on the Exodus. They don't know about the Exodus, and because they don't know, they're left behind. He comes like a thief in the night. Philadelphia, why didn't I mention them? There's no negative associated with Philadelphia. And Laodicea, why didn't I mention them? Because they're spit out. Is that before Exodus or after Exodus? I can't tell you, but they're spit out. But this should really scare you. Some of us really consider and want to be in that army, that Joel 2 army. I can tell you without question that I want to be. But again, it doesn't matter what I want, it only matters what he wants. If he allows me to do that, then that's great. If he doesn't allow me to do that, I'm a servant. I don't get to, there are no rules that I get to make. I get to listen. He has to authorize me to do that. But if we're in that army, we're almost safer than being inside the camp. I know it kind of sounds crazy, and again, not to say those people who were in that army weren't the people in the camp who were getting wiped out, because, again, we had in number 16, challenging authority, 250 men of renown and their whole families. So it's not to say that you're safer that way, but I'm saying the danger we have in the Exodus is not fighting the enemy. It's not following the Creator. That's our greatest worry. That should give everybody pause to really say, I want to do things correctly.